All right, so we're here today with Sal from downtown LA, Nova Art Studio. We're going to be doing an interview and just getting to know him, learn more about him, his career, and his start, and what led him to the great accomplishments that he's made in the industry. So, Sal, thank you for joining us for our interview today and just being a part of Icons. Um, I wanted to jump right in and just hit you with a few questions, so everybody can get to know you better. What got you into the industry? And how and when actually did you get into the industry?
What got me, how and when. Thank you guys for having me. Thank you so much for having me today. Um, so what really got me into it was this is gonna be a long answer, so get ready. But it wasn't just a moment in time, it was a series of events. The first one being really coming to America when I was 13. This year is the 20th year since that happened. My family and I moved out here. Um, and that's when I started really cutting hair because I started cutting my own hair, out of like trying to save my parents some money and that part also not wanting to experience uh, the whole idea of like next barbershop sequence, which that's what I got to experience when I was here. And especially at 13, like going through like hormonal changes, not knowing the language, assimilating to the culture, it was a lot. So popping into the barbershop and just feeling like another next had no soul, So I was like, screw this. If anyone's gonna cut my hair, then it'll be myself. And so that's the first time I bought sorry, I touched really hair, pair of scissors, clippers, um, and I hadn't stopped ever since.
So, as far as when did you actually get into taking appointments? When did you start messing with other people's hair besides your own?
Mm. I started I think around 14 and a half, 15. So inevitably what happens is you start doing like your family, right? Like your cousins, your uncles. And at the time I didn't do like women's hair at all. It was just like the dudes are usually more down, to do it. So I was doing like my dad and uncles and cousins. And so what started happening was that I really valued education, but we couldn't afford, say, like a private school. So what I thought of doing is I was cutting my hair repetitively every 2 weeks. I was fading my hair, and like kept getting better and better. I started jumping into high school, and kids were kind of looking at my hair. They liked what they were seeing, and so I thought of like, well, if I can turn this into a little business, and with that money, I can go take classes on stuff that I want to, because I was only at public school, and I thought the education was really lame per se. So my whole thought process was, well, make money out of these haircuts, and then you can buy yourself like take classes at the community college. So that's what I did. I was about 15, 16. And with this little money I was making from working in my garage, from all my other high school classmates, I started paying for my school at the community college, psychology, sociology, um, philosophy, painting, sculpting, things that I had actually my interest, because I never thought at that point hair being my actual passion. I wasn't 13 saying this is my future. No, no way. It was just a means to an end. Yeah.
So, it's funny because a lot of people that we talk with, they have that same idea of, oh, I'm just going to use this. It's a side hustle. I'm going to make a couple of bucks and I'm going to do X, Y, or Z to, make ends meet, do a few things. Uh,
Yep. There you go.
at what point did you realize, shit, like this is a career. This is what I'm going to do for real. At what point did you realize
Hmm.
that?
Well, it was around age 21. So from the moment 13 to 21, I tell people it was all money. Hair for me was just money, right? Just exactly how you explained it. But I did so many things in between because, again, I really value education. I really valued developing the self. So I did plenty of things from age 13 to 21, from high school, play soccer all 4 years, varsity. I did boxing. I thought of all these, not like, oh, I'm just gonna do them, but I thought of them as like potential careers. Psychology. I thought maybe I'll be a psychotherapist. I really like history, so I thought of being a history major professor. Then graduating, I came back and I coached the soccer team at the high school, and I was also tutoring at the high school for, ironically, like English and everything else. Um, I was also part of the youth ministry at church, so I was always like around like teens and young adults and kind of like coaching them and mentoring them in a way. And so 21 comes around and I'm cutting hair at the barbershop, and I'm actually at this moment I'm going to community college for a clothing and textiles major, which is I want to do fashion. So, I'm doing draping, tailoring, and all the fun clothing stuff. And I'm thinking that's what I'm gonna do. I'm really like set on that. But I'm in my chair one day, and one of the kids or one of the young adults that I was cutting hair for had been one of my students, as well as he was part of the soccer team. And
Hmm.
so I wasn't able to coach him or tutor him in the chair. So he was going through suicidal, thoughts. And so that I'm cutting his hair, and that's the moment I realized like I wasn't able to get to him as a soccer coach or as a tutor. It was actually as a barber, as a hairstylist, that the magic really happened. And that's when it just opened up my eyes of like, dude, everything you've been studying has been to make you a better hairstylist. You know what I mean? Like even the way with like clothing, I look at hair in a way of like making a drape the head, making drape the person, the whole psychology behind it. I even look at it as a sport, like sometimes I go hard, as you guys know, like in my days, just like I think of it as a competition, So all of this have what I realized at 21 was that it all shaped me to be a better hairstylist. So that's when I made the actual move and went to hair school at 21.
Okay, nice.
You sound very well rounded. I feel like the more I get to know you more and more, it's hear how well rounded you are and just how much you
Mm,
experience, and you dove into so many different things, but they all gave you, they all added to you into what you are now. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, I agree with that. The more I talk about it, the more I realize, dude, you were just kind of getting yourself better in all different directions.
So, as far as the salon, we know you opened up the Nova Art Studio
Hmm.
about a year ago during the pandemic. But whether it's the salon or overall the industry, what are you excited about right now? What are you working on?
I'm currently working on developing more of like my philosophy because I think like we just touched and it's pretty well rounded. And after now 20 years of doing this, I see that essentially people focus a lot on technique, but they lack everything else. They don't really work on developing the rest of the person, which is I think it really speaks a lot about our humanity nowadays, how we only focus on a lot of external things, but we don't develop the inside. So with my quote unquote philosophy, I want to write a book that I'm working on. I am working on a book, and then my classes, meaning online as well as I mean, I had the opportunity to work with you guys, so that's you can find all of that in now in this platform. And then my hair tours as well. So when I go in person, I really like talking to people in person. But just last week, believe it or not, I was talking to my wife about developing more of like a one-on-one coaching um, kind of situation where like it really focuses on what the person wants and needs, based on what I see that needs to be adjusted.
Yeah. What in the idea of philosophy and just hair in the industry as a whole, what do you feel the industry really needs or is lacking right now? Like you said, some people are getting the technical side, but
Mhm.
maybe they're missing other elements. What do you feel like the industry is lacking?
I think that it lacks it lacks vision. Like um, I think people focus so much on trends. Like, oh, what's the hottest trend? Oh, well, this is what's trendy. And trend can only it's short lived. So I think when I say vision, I think that the industry lacks a way of creating legacy. Like when I first got introduced into really hair and like really exploring like, okay, hair, how did hair started, right? Like let's talk about culture. Let's talk about different like history moments where hair was seen as something deeper than just like uh, um, a trend. So part of my philosophy, it's like really looking down into history and culture and like how hair has been more like it empowers people deeper than just taking good photos of the person. So when I say vision, I really mean more like legacy, like even like Sassoon, you I watch interviews of him and how he describes of like his reasoning behind what he did. It wasn't just to like make pretty hair, but it was this whole concept of like adding to the times, like I talk about hair as like really marking and history in a way, like the flappers in the 1920s, like what was the significance of the short hair while it was like a war going on, like so that's what I think is going on right now. Like people are really like using their tools, social media and blah blah blah, but there's no vision, there's no angle, there's no direction.
You feel like that's do you feel like it's an issue that we have within the time period that we're in, or is it more so the location and our demographic being, in America and the US, we're obviously kind of results driven or materialistic driven, so we need them results and we need them now, and you want to get paid out
Yes, yes,
putting in the work over time. Is that is it an issue of
yes.
area or is it time?
I think it's a little both. I think it's a product of both, like when you look at America, like I feel like what people don't understand is that America has such a privileged place in society, right? Because everyone's looking, like, look at Hollywood, right? Look at the big cities. I mean, like now with the focus that LA has, New York has, like all these top big cities, people are looking at them. So with social media, like it used to take time for things to catch on. Now whatever it's happening here, it's being duplicated everywhere else. So like with that, there's a lot of responsibility. Like great power comes great responsibility. So it's like what are we teaching and what are we spreading out there? So that's what I mean. It's like it's the vision. Like what it's really cool when you post a picture, right? And like you get a lot of likes and reposts and all this stuff. And then you see it trickle down through society, and all of a sudden everyone's doing the same haircut. That's awesome, but does it have substance? You know what I mean? Does it have an actual impact that can benefit the society rather than just make it be compulsive? Um, yeah, that's what I see.
There's definitely a struggle on that. I know me and you have talked about it lightly before, talking about you put up a certain pose that you're like in love with,
Yeah, yeah.
and interaction with it is like so minimal. Like it's hard sometimes to not question it at times. It's like, well, I thought it was fucking amazing. You know what I mean? It like it meant so much, but then other people weren't really feeling it, and
Yeah.
you're gonna have to check yourself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Man, that struggle,
So for you, so like I know you've accomplished a lot inside of the industry and inside of your 12, 13 years after going through school and being in the industry, being in the salon. What
huh?
what would you say is one of your proudest moments throughout your career right now?
There was a there's been different levels of it. Like for example, like I think at a deeper level, like opening the salon has been one of my proudest moments because it turned into more like the legacy moment, right? Like I always describe, you guys have heard me actually, from 13 to 21, it was money, right? So my proud moment there was when I was able to buy. My dad was out of work for like about a year, 2008, when the recession hit, and I was working at the barbershop so diligently, killing it, that I made enough money to buy him a used BMW. And that was one of my proudest moments at that time, right? And then 21 to 28 hit, and my focus was fame. I wanted to be famous. And so the proud moment there was being in Taiwan. Kat and I, my wife, went, and she was pregnant, and we're sitting next to a guy. We're watching at a night market. We're watching some teens play music, and it's kind of rare to see like that show of like a teen really like killing it, and so we're like so mesmerized by him. And then this other kid gets up after 20 minutes, and I see him walking, and I can even talk. And my wife's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, she's like, "What?" And he's wearing a shirt of the French bob that I did like about a year before that, that was everywhere. And so here I am across the country, sorry, across the world, seeing someone wearing a shirt of a picture that I took, you know. So that was my proudest moment at that time. It was so surreal too. Um, and so it fulfilled my fame, right? My fame period. But then 28, when I married my wife, opened the salon came, and so for that was my whole goal for that was legacy. You know, how am I going to build legacy? So opening the salon and having my baby was it was so like intertwined with legacy. You know, it's all about legacy now.
Said raising a baby and opening the baby of a salon at the same time.
Yep. Yep. I don't know which one's teaching me more. It's very intertwined. It's so wild.
No, it is. And right, for the, I guess, contrast, right? There's a lot of young hairdressers who are, I think, in that moment of, okay, hey, am I building my business? Am I having a family? And they're maybe deciding or in the middle or not really sure what to do about that. What's your thought or recommendation to people who are getting into building their business and starting a family at the same time? Do you have anything to share, like, hey, 2 cents on how they could achieve both or how they can make both work a little bit better together?
Yeah, yeah, totally. I mean, ironically, I was just asking another big successful hairstylist. She's like, "Oh, I have two, you know." She's like, "Oh, you have a kid?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "I have two." I'm like, "Oh my God, like you, how do you do it?" Oh man, you know, I thought I had just figured it out, but anyway, yeah, my advice will be to really go at it in both scenarios. Go at it full heartedly and be open to not necessarily you being the teacher, you being the one guiding, but letting this tiny human also guide you and letting your connection with your salon and your business also teach you. You know, like never operate from a place of like I know it all. I'm the parent and I'm the boss, but I'm open to learn from my peers and my clients as well as I'm learning to learn from a child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having two kids myself is definitely interesting. I don't often take time to reflect on, like, hey, okay, they're teaching me stuff, but even just looking, I'm like, damn,
Mm.
you look like me. And seeing how they live life, I'm like learning how to change just different things about me or how I view them and how I work with them. Just looking at how they view
Yes.
life, such a different lens, right? Like, because
Yep.
how does
It's
your
beautiful.
how does your kid again?
He just turned 3.
3, yeah. So my daughter's the same age, and it's like you wake up and it's just about fun. It's just about creating. Like they wake up, they're happy, they're energetic, and it's straight to the toys, right? Like
They're ready to
everything
go.
is just
Yeah.
good. We're just living life. We're having fun, and I
Yes,
think as
yes.
far as the salon, it's fun to create that same kind of space, right? I know you do that at Nova Arts, right? Like, hey, okay, they come in and it's about fun. It's about hair. It's about creating.
Yes,
So
yes.
I think what you described a little bit is you had mentioned another time, kind of in a different aspect, but vulnerability is I feel like what you're talking about, being
Mm,
vulnerable enough to be affected by, not you just putting out, but you taking in what everything's going on, um,
yes.
you were referring to the last conversation we had was about men actually and masculinity, and
Mm.
you were
We
tying
talk
it
about
to
it?
yeah, we were talking about like his length. We were like, I feel if a guy needs more softness, more vulnerability, then I try to encourage him to grow out his hair, and vice versa. Maybe even for
Yes,
women, it's
yes.
like if you feel like they need to be empowered a little bit more and a little more strength, and then you might encourage them to take their hair shorter. But yeah, I
Yeah,
guess vulnerability. I feel like is what you were speaking a lot about. How else do you let
that's
that
it.
guide you along?
Exactly. How is that let that guide me?
Yeah, how else do you let that guide you? Vulnerability and just really being in tune and listening.
But I think there needs to be a balance, like what was I reading the other day? Um, like I was even comparing like, I was teaching my assistants about like how to hold the iron and I said don't hold it straight because the hair will be flat. Don't hold it horizontal because the hair will be too fluffy. I said hold it at an angle because that's right around the middle. I said, well, why do the middle? And I said, well, because then from there, if you want to go flatter, you can go flatter. If you want to go bigger, you can go bigger. So the middle is the right path, you know. And whenever I look into like any teachers that really when I look into like Zen or like Buddhism or Hinduism, they always talk about the middle path. You know what I mean? Like from there, you're able to go into both. You can be kind to your child, or you can be aggressive towards the aggressor. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to be in that place where you're ready to go either way. Yeah, I'm either ready to hug you, I'm either ready to like punch you. You know what I mean? Like it's a very powerful, it's a powerful place to be for everyone.
I agree.
Yeah.
So as far as right, some of your history and education, things that you've learned along the way, what are some of the most important, I would say, changes or lessons that you learned around personal growth and education for the industry
Woo.
that helped you get to where you are?
What are some of the most valuable things I've learned? You're saying?
Yeah, yeah, that have helped you make it to be who you are today.
Um, I think early on the days it was really seeing that realizing that everyone has a different lens and those are all needed. You know, like uh, I've learned from different people and I've watched different people and they all work different. And instead of being like, your style is not good or yours is great, I thought that everyone had a good thing and a bad thing about themselves. So I would pick on that. So I think that that's really valuable to understand that it's not so much like that's wrong or that's right, but when can this be useful? When can this not be useful? I think that's a really valuable, especially for the people that are just getting started. You know what I mean? Like to not judge things, but understand when to use them. Exactly how we're saying. Like, are you gonna hug or are you gonna punch? You decide when to use your discernment. You know, that's important. And also as I progress now into teaching, I think what I'm really realizing is that different people learn different ways. So and also with that, it's like customizing classes or experiences for different people, but also mm, oh, not being afraid with sharing because you never know what will actually impact someone. You know, it can be when I'm saying something really calm, or it can be when I'm yelling that somebody else is actually taking on that, or it could just be complete silence and I'm showing a technique when people really have an aha moment. So I think being diverse with how you teach is very important.
I got a question for you. Something that's popped up in my head.
Bring
Um,
it, bring it.
so when we shot the video for your class, I think it was that day during either during the interview or during like your actual technique. When we were doing the modern shag, you spoke about just how you felt like you were always pretty confident in yourself, and
Ooh.
obviously, I feel like that's probably a big part of like finding success in any field is like believing in yourself and being able to push through the undoubted hurdles that are going to come along the way.
Yes.
So with you being an educate, doing more education and you actually mentoring your actual stylist in the salon, with that being such a weak area for so many people in our society, how are you teaching and helping communicate confidence for these people?
That's a really good question. Um, same ways, you know, it has to be, it has become very customizable, you know, from simple things to like setting aside right when you see it, you know, right when you see the lack of confidence, like, hey, come here, let's talk about this real quick. Let's step out a little. What happened? How did you experience that? What did you feel? Did you like the way you felt? Would you like to feel different? What does it need? What does it take? What would it take for you to feel different? And then I think it's always about empowering people. It really has to be about empowering people, um, without making this too like take you guys all around the place. I have a visual, you know, like I say like it's a mountaintop. So like whenever you talk to someone that you who you want to build, you should talk to them from a mountaintop. Meaning, if I'm at the mountaintop because I'm the boss, right? then it's gonna be a struggle for me to hear you from down there because you're like Sal, and vice versa. I'm just gonna be like, you're down there. So the whole goal is to bring people to your mountaintop, and say, let's say the mountains are a bit close to each other, but at the same height. That way you can hear each other. You know what I mean? Like, and that's all it is for me. Place of empowerment. So I do that for my clients. I do that for my team. If someone's looking at me and they're already feeling a little like doubted on themselves, then I give them a compliment or something to like empower them. Or somebody's like up here and they're already confident, then I tell them to chill out and lower themselves. So it has to be like that. There's a lot of power in that, and really talking to people from this place. Like in Native American culture, they talk a lot about the circle. Like you're never in a line leading someone because you're at the front and you know better. uh, um, it's always in a circle, because in the circle everyone's the same. The young one can have their opinion, the elder can have an opinion, and everyone's able to hear because they're in the same proximity. So it's the similar concept.
As far as your career, right, building up again to who you are today, what are some of those investments that you had to make along the way, either into yourself or time investments or even financial investments into training? What type of
And
investments did you have to make over your career?
whew, I was thinking of that last week. There was an an instance when two of my two of my people at the salon left. And it left a bad impression, and a bad taste in my mouth. But it was also like, understanding their own journey and respecting their journey, although I may disagree with it. And it really got me thinking into my investments, like, because I felt like the people kind of tapped out, and I was like, man, like, I never tapped out. I was talking to a friend recently. He's an MMA fighter, and he was talking to me. He's been working on this business for a while, and it wasn't going the way he wanted to. The investors were like, no, now you're gonna get a less percentage. And I said, what are you gonna do? And he said, I'm gonna keep fighting. He said, that's all I know my whole life. And I was like, damn. Because although I'm not a big guy, I don't have cauliflower ears. Like, I feel like I've kept fighting my whole life. And when you guys ask about investments, and the reason why I'm telling you all this is because it does feel as though, in order to keep yourself growing and expanding, there's always a bit of an investment. It might hurt you. You might feel uncomfortable. You might not want to do it. You're like, I want to keep my gains over here. But the moment you invest a little something, then it comes at you in such a massive form. So my investments through my journey have been intense, from like working insane amount of hours. Like, I remember it was one time I was assisting in New York, with one of my mentors, and we did a 3-day gig, right? So 3 days working. I slept in those 3 days. I slept 7 hours. For me, it wasn't like, oh my god, I didn't get to sleep. For me, it was an investment. I knew that, like, that was gonna lead into something bigger. Like, now I'm getting to a point that I'm working 4 days a week, but it's only because I work 7, 6, 5, and now I'm working towards 4. So, it's like no pain, no gain. I really do live by that. Like, I tell people, I'm like, I'm not addicted to drugs or excess of anything, but I am addicted to that pain. I am addicted to that uncomfortability, because I know it leads to amazing things. So that's what kind of keeps me going. Challenging comes, and so I'm like, okay, let's get another one in, because that I grew out of that. Yeah,
Was
I
there
think.
ever a point where you had to make like major financial investments as far as like
Mm,
right, like paying for your own trip to travel and shadow somebody, or paying for expensive classes or training, right? I know obviously Tony and Guy Academy, but like
yeah,
I feel like that's a
yeah.
hurdle that some people struggle overcoming. But what are some examples where you've had to like, hey, pay your own way or do certain things to pay your dues?
Yes. What's so interesting about this is that I again, the reason why I told you I've been trying to remember them is because now they're like nothing. I completely forgot them. But when I visit my parents, they tell me like, "Oh, you used to commute." So my parents live about an hour and a half away from LA, and I used to drive there. I did that for about a year and a half. to LA to work at my first salon after hair school. I used to drive about an hour and a half there, an hour and a half back just to go assist. And then sometimes, to do hair on the side, to do photo shoots. After working, I do the shoots or drive on my busy days. So that was, I mean, extremely demanding on the body. It was like long work hours and then 3 hours drive every day for about a year and a half. That was, I mean, I mean, I was making, I remember, like basically nothing a day to be an assistant. So like I remember eating a lot of tuna, canned tuna at the house. I had a tiny little apartment the moment that I could, and I never had anything. I mean, I kid you guys not, I still have some of the clothes that I had back then. I call it my very own vintage clothes, like stuff
Yeah.
that like little shirts and pants that I wore back from those days because I didn't spend buying expensive things or anything for me. It was all like just survival. So like my gas money, my tuna money, and just working my ass off. That
No,
was, if not the, I think, one of the biggest investments.
no, and
And
that's
I mean,
important.
oh my God. And
Oh,
even
go ahead.
like the amount of times that girlfriends thought I was horrible because I that was an investment too. It was always like, you're always working, you're always working. It was true. Like to me, I was set on my goal. I knew what I needed to achieve, and not until I achieved that, I was able to give myself everything else. Like I don't know if you guys know, but I fast a lot. I've been fasting for the past 6 years. I try to fast at least once a month. It doesn't always happen that way, but I go completely without food, only water. So like it's only an example of one way that I fasted. I fasted in so many different ways in my life.
No, that's good though. That's important because I think for a lot of people to see and understand, people see you on Instagram now, right? They see, man, Sal's cool. He's got this beautiful salon. He's got these beautiful clients and models, but they didn't see that Sal had a tuna diet for 2 years. You know what I mean? They didn't see.
Yes, yes,
They're like,
yes.
damn, well, why
Yeah,
do I have to drive 2 hours to assist? But they don't know that you did that also for
exactly.
multiple years, right? They're
Yep,
sometimes that instant gratification or being able to see it. I think it's easy to lose track of what that person had to do to get from point A to point B. Um,
that's it. That's
yeah.
it. So just recently I've been watching a lot of documentaries on like I watched the Disney one, the Pixar, the Michael Jordan, the Kanye West, a couple of other people that are a little less known. Uh, but similar thing. It's like I only know them as successful, right? Because only know them as at their top, as like this either big corporations or this massive influences in pop culture. But when you look at what the things that they had to do, I'm like, for them it didn't seem like nothing. When they did it, it was just like you have a. It's like having a roadmap. Like where you're going, but you're gonna figure out the roadmap. Whereas a lot of people right now are just so focused on the roadmap. Oh, I don't really want to make a left turn. I don't really want to make a right turn. It's like you're losing complete track of, what I mean? You're losing
The
complete
end
track
goal.
of like I said, yeah. And like you guys asked me earlier, it's like vision. People are lacking vision right now. They're just so like, they're right here. They're right here. It's a lot easier to look at your phone. They're right here, but there's no sense of this.
Yeah. There's this clip in this HBO documentary on Dr. Dre and was it Jimmy Ed?
Oh,
I'm forgetting the name of the documentary, but he's working with U2. He's like a producer, and they're trying to perfect one song. They do, I think he said, 260 takes of a single song in one night. And it's like, okay,
oh
yeah,
my
people
God.
people want a song to be that popular, but are you willing to play that
Oh
same
my
song
God.
260 times in a row through the night, right? Like I didn't go to sleep, but it's like, man,
Dang.
there's certain debts to pay along the way, right?
There is.
There's
There
certain
is.
investments, and I'm sure, like you said, they didn't think about it. They were just involved. They were passionate about what they were doing, and they were focused on that end goal, not so
Yes.
much
That's it.
what left and right turns and different commitments they had to keep and make along the way. So
Yes. Yes. I think when earlier I forget who taught me this, but when you were asking about the investment question, right? Like a lot of us, there's a difference between people that think of it as investment, right? Like, oh, here's $100 for a class. Some people think about it as like, I invested in myself, $100 into myself. People are like, oh, that's a loss. You know what I mean? And a lot of people think from that it's like the lack or abundant mentality, right? So many people are thinking that they're losing stuff. You know, they're completely attached to these things and they're completely disconnected from the macro, you know.
You were talking about being addicted to the pain, right? Addicted to the pain that it takes
Yeah.
in order to grow and kind of go to that next level. And it reminded me of two things, like in our salon in general, something that my dad incorporated a long time ago is called a kaizen. And I think it's a
Kaizen.
Japanese term. Yeah, it's like basically the phrase means never settle and each day improve a little bit more. You know, it might have been good
Yes.
before, but it can always be better
Yes.
tomorrow. And
Damn.
so like, it reminded me of that. And then there was like something I heard a long time ago too. Um, I want to say it was a couple years ago, and it wasn't Elon Musk, but it was somebody similar to that. Oh, yeah, actually, you know who it was? It was who Adam was talking about earlier. He was talking about Jimmy Iovine, the guy who started
Uh-huh.
Beats by Dre with Dre, and
Uh,
they said that the key to his success is like he was never afraid to challenge himself or reinvent himself, right? So when they started Aftermath and everything, you know, you're signing on, you know, Eminem and different people like that, but they were never afraid to throw away their old success and what made them successful that day and try completely new things in order to find that new level of success. It's like you just a lot of people get attached to their old systems and the ways that they found
yes.
success before. And I can see how easy it is. It's like it worked for me. I have a proven path. You know, it's like why would I break away?
Yes.
But that's what made him so successful. It's like he never settled and always challenged himself. And
Damn.
well, like funny enough, I brought it up
That's
yesterday.
beautiful.
No, that's powerful. Um, I brought it up to Adam yesterday. It's like, you know, because, you know, we're building icons. And in order to build icons, I guess kind of like we talked about earlier, just been so focused on like the end goal. But at times, it's like, man, you get tired. It's like, I'm tired of learning new things. I'm tired of learning how to
Yes.
shoot better, you know, shoot these tutorials, how to
Yes.
edit them better, how to build this new platform. It's like you just keep on adding on new skills. It's like, man, it's fatiguing. But it's like you just kind of keep on pushing through. It's just like, all right, it's gonna pay off one day, and because I'm just so focused on the
That's
goal.
that's that's it, man.
Yeah,
And that's what it has to be. I think as long as you're aware that you're aware that you're constantly evolving. You know, I was reading yesterday and I was sharing it with my wife. When maturity is acknowledging that nothing lasts forever, you know, and meaning both the pain and the success, you know. So like, in order to continue that path is like continuing to rebirth, you know, rebirth yourself. Like everything that you thought was it already set on stone, being able to like let it go in order to get something new. I'll give you guys a quick little story. When I found my wife, when I meaning like when I realized I was gonna marry her. Well, a little bit. Let's go back a little bit more. I thought I thought I was gonna be a bachelor forever. I didn't want to get married for the same reason, you know, that I was like, man, I'm always working, and for me, work is so important. But I was also like living life really fun and dating a lot, so I was like, oh, I just want to be a bachelor forever. Long story short, I meet wife, and I'm like, you're amazing. I want to have kids with you. I want to have a life with you. And one of my really good friends, he's older than me. He's one of my mentors. The guy is an amazing musician, and but his feet are always on the ground. This guy's he's worked with you name it, he's worked with them. So he's like my older brother, you know, and I said, you know, dude, like I'm completely like it's really weird. Like I'm so happy because I found her, but I feel really sad and weird about like I don't know. And he's like, bro, he's like, you're mourning. I'm like, what am I mourning? He's like, yourself. He's like, you're mourning your old self. He's like, you getting ready to let that version of Sal die. And I'm like, damn, bro. He's like, yeah, but there's a new version that's about to come up, you know? And if you want the new version, you have to let this other one go. and that, I mean, that was beautiful because now every time that I've opened the salon, uh, gone further and further, there is that sense of like sadness and happiness, and now I only explain it that way. It's mourning the old self, but inviting, making room for the new self.
Wow. That's powerful. That makes a lot of sense. I'm thinking about it kind of like Caleb mentioned with icons. I'm like, man, okay, I gave away maybe 6, 8 months ago. I gave away all my clients. I stopped doing hair. And sometimes I'm like, man, I see
Mm.
my clients come in. I'm like, man, I kind of want to like cut your hair and hang out with you today, but like that's not the new me or who the new me is going to be. But
Right,
sometimes it is
right.
sad, like having left some of that behind. It's like, man, what was I doing?
Mm.
Not that I'm Michael Jordan, but
Yeah.
like he quit while he was good. Like things were going good. I didn't have a reason to quit, right? Like
Yeah,
it
yeah,
decided something different. I'm like, man, but yeah, it is. I think kind of what you're saying. That helped me out actually a lot. I
yeah.
appreciate that. You live life and see life very differently. What do you do for fun? Like when you're not at work, and even when you're not with your family, like what's fun to Sal? Because I feel like having a family is different for me. Like I do fun things with my family, but if it's just me, it's different.
Yeah,
What do you get
yeah.
into for fun, man?
Just for me, just me stuff.
Just for you, yeah.
I call it research. I'm constantly researching stuff. I get on my computer, I get on books. Right behind this wall, it's like my all my bookshelf. It's full of books. My wife makes fun of me because she's like, "You just buy all these books." And there's a meme of LeBron James where he's just like, "Have you guys seen it? He has a book and like
He's always on the
he's
first
only reading
page.
like the first." Yeah, she's like, "That's you." I'm like, "Come on, man." But I love books. I'm a nerd for like uh I think my house looks like a natural history museum. I have stuff from all around the world. Like I love researching. I love learning about different things, different perspectives. Like this guy, like I just love finding new stuff. Like learning new things. That's what gets me going in a day-to-day basis.
Nice. What are some of the favorite places you like to travel? I feel like you travel a lot, but what are some of
Yeah,
your favorite destinations now?
I love the desert. Like I love the desert. I really like Utah, Arizona, Baja, like southern Baja, like the desert out there is awesome. I love desolated places, I think, because I'm always around people. I'm constantly looking for places that are like in the middle of nowhere. We went to Asia. I freaking love Asia. I really
What
want to
country?
do Africa. What's that?
What country in Asia?
What's that?
What
Oh, we
country?
went to Taiwan and Japan.
Okay.
Nice.
Taiwan and Japan. Yeah. South America was awesome. Peru was really cool. I haven't been to Europe. I think I'm not too. I know I'm gonna love it, but I'm more interested in like raw culture. You know what I mean? Like the origin of like I said, like anthropology. Well, I didn't say that, but anthropology. I'm really interested in anthropology. Like anything ancient. Like I'm always constantly looking for things that are like archaic looking. Like this is just like right here in my back. Like this is a you put a incense and you can let it burn. This is from South America. Like this is the stuff I'm a nerd for.
Nice.
Yep.
Collective.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Where do you want to go in Africa?
Oh, well, I've been getting recently into like there's like this big movement. Well, Nigeria had a crazy like psychedelic scene back in the days. Like I don't know if you guys know, but it was like almost like erase history. Like some really rad bands. And even like I love Afrobeat. Like I'm a big fan of what's it, Fela Kuti. Um, so like I would want to explore areas that have more like that music. Uh, all around, all around.
Okay, cool. Last question. You mentioned legacy, you mentioned vision. What's the legacy that you want to leave in life? We'll go beyond here. Like, what's Sal's legacy?
Damn, that's a good question. Um, but with the coaching situation, like coaching hair, but I also want to I'm working on developing like a retreat center where people can go and like either you're going through postpartum, drug addiction, um, self-awareness, whatever. Like I want to create a space where people can go and look deep within that. There's also another idea I have where it'll be like having a ranch but turn it into like a foster care. So like kids and young adults can have like learn about animals and plants. So I think when I think in like the big picture of what I want to leave behind is be able to like leave the world a little better than I found it, you know, at the personal level, at the community level, at the society level.
Nice.
Yep, yep,
I
yep.
like that. Create
I
a little
like,
space for people that are struggling and need that, need the
yeah.
opportunity to grow.
I want people to have time to think about things, imagine things, yeah, explore their mind.
Nice. All right. Well, Sal, we appreciate the time. Thank you for sharing with us and for sharing with everybody listening. Um, we'll catch up. We'll be out there. I think one of us will be out there soon. I'll be out there in a couple of months, so
Oh,
I'll go check out
nice, nice. You guys are always welcome,
the
man.
arts in
Please,
person.
thank you guys so much for having me. I really appreciate you both. I appreciate your team. Send my love to your dad. Send my love to everybody.
Nice,
Cool.
man.
Thank you,
All
man.
right. Have a great
Later.
one.